Emotional safety, it's not loud, it's not flashy, it's not something you can post about or measure with words. But it's everything. It's the invisible energy that turns attraction into attachment, strangers into lovers, and lovers into soulmates. Without emotional safety, connection feels like walking on glass, beautiful to look at, but dangerous to touch. And no matter how strong the chemistry, no matter how deep the attraction, without that safety, you'll always feel like you're performing instead of belonging. Emotional safety is the feeling that says, I can exhale here. It's the space where you don't have to explain your tone, justify your emotions, or hide your scars. It's knowing that you can speak your truth and still be loved. It's when someone's energy doesn't just attract you, it calms you. You feel seen, not judged, heard, not dismissed, understood, not analyzed. That's when bonding truly begins, when two people start to feel safe in each other's presence. Because let's be honest, most of us are not afraid of love. We're afraid of what happens when love stops feeling safe. We've been in spaces where opening up led to rejection, where honesty turned into arguments, where our softness was met with silence. So we start to protect ourselves. We laugh when we want to cry. We pull away when we want to reach out. We pretend we're fine when our hearts are breaking. But that's not bonding. That's survival. And survival may keep you in a relationship, but it can never make you feel connected. Real bonding happens when you feel safe enough to drop the act. When you can say, this is how I feel. And the other person doesn't use your vulnerability against you. They don't mock you, they don't turn away. They listen. They stay. They hold space. That's emotional safety. And that's when love begins to root itself deep in trust. Because love without safety is unstable. It's like trying to build a house on sand. It might stand for a while, but it won't weather the storm. When someone creates emotional safety for you, it feels like a home you never knew you were missing. You begin to relax. You begin to trust your own emotions again. You stop walking on eggshells. You stop questioning your worth. You stop performing. You start being. And that's when true bonding happens. Not in the moments of perfection, but in the quiet comfort of being accepted exactly as you are. Safety is not built through grand gestures. It's built through consistency. Through small, everyday moments where someone proves they can be trusted. It's when they remember what hurts you. When they speak gently even in disagreement. When they hold your hand through your silence instead of forcing words. Emotional safety grows when love is not conditional. When you don't have to earn it by being easy, beautiful, or cheerful. It's given freely because your humanity is enough. In relationships where emotional safety exists, communication doesn't feel like a battlefield. You don't walk away from every conversation feeling smaller. Instead, you both leave feeling heard. You may not always agree, but you always understand. Because love isn't about winning, it's about preserving the bond. It's about knowing that both of you can have different perspectives without making each other feel unsafe. That's emotional maturity, and that's the foundation of true bonding. When emotional safety is missing, love becomes exhausting. You start censoring yourself, holding back your truth, pretending to be less emotional just to avoid conflict. You lose your voice, you lose your peace, you lose yourself. That's not bonding, that's fear disguised as love. But when safety exists, everything changes. You don't have to hide, you don't have to chase reassurance. You can just exist, whole, honest, and free. People often think attraction fades over time, but what really fades is the feeling of safety. When you stop feeling safe to express yourself, the heart starts to retreat. That's why relationships that once felt alive suddenly go quiet. Not because love disappeared, but because safety did. The energy shifted from connection to protection. And no one can bond while they're in defense mode. True emotional bonding feels peaceful. It doesn't rush. It doesn't demand. It allows. It invites. It breathes. It says, you're safe here. You don't have to perform. You don't have to be perfect. You can just be. That's what deepens intimacy, when both people realize that love isn't about control or power, but about presence. Emotional safety also means accountability. It means when you hurt each other, because you don't run or deny it, you take responsibility, you repair, you rebuild. You create a cycle of trust that grows stronger each time. That's how emotional bonds become unbreakable. Not because you never fight, but because you always come back with understanding and care. When you feel emotionally safe, love feels lighter. Communication becomes easier. Vulnerability feels natural. You stop fearing that being honest will push someone away. You stop pretending that silence is strength. You begin to connect in ways that words can't fully describe. Because safety allows your soul to open. That's why the deepest relationships don't need constant reassurance or performance. They have a rhythm, a peace, an understanding that comes from trust. That's what emotional safety gives you. Not the absence of conflict, but the presence of peace. It's the kind of bond that doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. It simply is. And maybe that's what real love is supposed to feel like. Not constant adrenaline, not endless chasing, not fear of loss, but safety. Calm. Knowing, the feeling that you can breathe, that you can speak, that you can exist without fear. That's the space where attraction transforms into attachment, and attachment transforms into something eternal. So if you ever wonder what real bonding looks like, it's not in the fireworks, it's in the quiet spaces of trust, in the soft moments of truth, in the safety of being fully known. Because love doesn't thrive in chaos, it blooms in peace. And peace is born in emotional safety. Vulnerability. It's the quiet bridge between attraction and attachment, the invisible path that turns curiosity into connection and desire into depth. Most people think love begins with chemistry, with the spark, with the excitement of the unknown. But real love, the kind that stays, begins when you let yourself be seen. Truly seen. Vulnerability isn't about sharing your secrets. It's about sharing your truth. It's about taking off the armor you've been wearing and saying, "This is me, unfiltered, imperfect, real." And when someone sees that version of you and still chooses to stay, that's when attraction becomes attachment. You can't form an emotional bond without risk. You can't build connection while hiding behind walls. Attraction will draw someone close, but only vulnerability keeps them there. It's what transforms a fleeting moment into something meaningful. It's what allows two people to meet, not just body to body, but soul to soul. Because the truth is, you can't truly love or be loved if you're still pretending to be someone you're not. Vulnerability is powerful because it's raw. It strips away the image, the performance, the need to impress. It invites honesty. It invites depth. It invites realness. It says, "I trust you enough to show you the parts of me that I usually hide." And that's what deepens intimacy. When two people share their fears, their hopes, their insecurities, their dreams, when they stop pretending and start revealing, that's when connection becomes unbreakable. Attraction might make someone want to touch your skin, but vulnerability makes them want to touch your heart. It's what creates emotional gravity, that pull that keeps you thinking about them long after the spark fades. Because now, it's not just about who they are, it's about who you become when you're around them. You start to feel more authentic, more grounded, more yourself. And that's the beauty of true connection. It doesn't demand that you change, it inspires you to open. When you're vulnerable with someone, you invite emotional safety. You're saying, "I trust you with my truth." And when that trust is respected, it becomes the foundation of emotional attachment. But it's important to remember, not everyone can handle your vulnerability. Some people only want the version of you that's easy to love, the version that smiles through pain, that hides her fears behind confidence. But the right person, the one who's emotionally ready, will see your vulnerability not as weakness, but as intimacy. They'll hold it with care. They'll see your honesty as beauty. They'll respond not with judgment, but with tenderness. That's when you begin to bond. That's when attraction, which once felt thrilling and uncertain, becomes something safe and certain. Because emotional bonding doesn't come from pretending to be perfect. It comes from being courageous enough to be real. It's saying, "I'm scared too," or "I've been hurt before," or "Sometimes I don't feel good enough." And watching as someone looks at you with empathy instead of disappointment. That moment of mutual honesty, that's when love takes root. Vulnerability is also about allowing someone else to show you their truth. It's not just about opening up, it's about receiving. When someone shares their fears or past wounds with you, that's a sacred invitation. How you respond determines the depth of your connection. If you respond with compassion, with patience, with presence, that's when emotional safety flows both ways. That's when two hearts begin to trust each other fully. So many people crave intimacy yet run from vulnerability. They want connection without risk, love without openness, attachment without surrender. But that's not how it works. You can't skip the step of being real. The walls you build to protect yourself are the same walls that block love from entering. When you choose to be vulnerable, you're not saying, "I'm weak." You're saying, "I'm brave enough to let you see me as I am." The most powerful relationships are built in those raw, unfiltered moments. The late night talks about fear and failure, the quiet confessions, the tears that fall without shame. It's in those moments that trust deepens. You realize that love isn't about perfection or control. It's about connection. It's about two people who stop pretending and start feeling. Attraction is exciting because it's mysterious, but vulnerability makes it meaningful because it's real. It's what turns a spark into a flame that doesn't just burn, it warms. When someone sees the truth of you and still wants to stay close, you start to feel safe in ways you never did before. You start to believe, maybe I don't have to fight to be loved. Maybe I can just be. When two people are vulnerable with each other, they build emotional memory. Every honest moment, every shared story, every piece of truth creates a bond that's hard to break. You start to rely on each other not out of need, but out of trust. And that's the beginning of emotional attachment. When you stop wondering if they'll leave and start knowing they'll stay, it's easy to attract someone with charm, confidence, or beauty. But if you want them to stay, show them your heart, show them your softness, show them your humanness, because vulnerability is the language of love, the way souls recognize each other beyond attraction. It's the quiet whisper that says, I see you, I understand you, I'm with you. That's what makes love feel safe. That's what turns chemistry into connection and connection into attachment. It's not the big moments, it's the quiet truths, the honest words, the shared stillness. It's two people who stop performing and start being real, who stop chasing perfection and start embracing the messy, beautiful reality of who they are. Vulnerability is what takes love from something temporary to something timeless. It's the heartbeat of emotional intimacy, the invisible force that binds two souls together even when words fall short. It's the reason you feel drawn to someone long after the initial spark has dimmed, because what stays with you isn't the excitement of attraction. It's the peace of being understood. When you allow yourself to be seen, you invite real love to find you. And when two people meet each other in that space of honesty, that's when magic happens. Not the kind of magic that fades, but the kind that endures, the kind that whispers instead of shouts, the kind that grows roots deep within the heart. So yes, attraction might bring two people together, but it's vulnerability, the courage to be real, the willingness to trust, the decision to stay open, that transforms attraction into attachment. Because at the end of the day, love isn't built on perfection, it's built on truth. And when truth is shared, love becomes something sacred, something lasting, something real. Chemistry is instant. It's electric. It's the spark that catches you off guard, the tension that hangs in the air between two people before a single word is spoken. You feel it in your body before your mind even understands it. The flutter, the rush, the anticipation. It's exciting, thrilling, sometimes overwhelming. Chemistry is that magnetic pull that makes you crave someone's presence, their touch, their attention. It's the high that comes from the unknown, from the potential, from the thrill of possibility. But here's the truth that time always teaches us. Chemistry is loud, but emotional bonding is quiet. Chemistry makes noise. It's what gets your heart racing, your thoughts spinning. It's fast, impulsive, and often unpredictable. You find yourself thinking about them constantly, waiting for that next text, replaying every conversation in your head, searching for meaning in every glance. It feels like fireworks, bright, beautiful, but fleeting. Emotional bonding, though, moves differently. It doesn't rush, it doesn't shout, it doesn't dazzle you in a single moment. It hums softly beneath the surface, steady and calm. It doesn't need to prove itself because it knows it's real. When chemistry walks into the room, it demands attention. But when emotional bonding grows, it invites peace. It's the difference between the rush of falling and the comfort of landing. Chemistry can make you feel alive, but emotional bonding makes you feel safe. And safety, that's what keeps people connected long after the excitement fades. You see, chemistry often thrives on uncertainty, on the chase, on the thrill of not knowing what comes next. But emotional bonding blooms in consistency. It grows when someone shows up over and over again, not with grand gestures, but with presence, with patience, with care. That's when your nervous system starts to relax, when your heart realizes it doesn't have to chase anymore. That's when connection becomes something deeper. Something felt, not just desired. When you first meet someone and feel that spark, it's easy to mistake it for love. You feel drawn to them almost magnetically, and it's intoxicating. But chemistry doesn't always equal compatibility. Two people can have incredible chemistry and still not be right for each other. That's because chemistry is about attraction, while emotional bonding is about alignment. Chemistry wants intensity, emotional bonding wants understanding. Chemistry feeds off the mystery, emotional bonding thrives on truth. Emotional bonding doesn't always start with sparks. Sometimes it starts with stillness, with a conversation that feels honest, with a silence that feels comfortable, with the sense that this person sees you beyond your image. It's not about butterflies, it's about exhale. It's about being able to sit across from someone without needing to impress them, because you know they already value you for who you are. The difference between chemistry and bonding is the difference between adrenaline and peace. One makes your heart race, the other helps it rest. One is addictive, the other is healing. And it's often when we've been hurt by loud chemistry, by connections that burned bright and ended quickly, that we begin to crave the quiet depth of emotional bonding. We start realizing that peace feels better than passion that hurts. Emotional bonding doesn't come from constant excitement. It comes from emotional safety, from knowing that you can share your fears, your insecurities, your hopes, and still be met with care. It's the little things. The way someone listens without interrupting, the way they remember your smallest details, the way their presence calms you after a hard day. It's not a rush, it's a rhythm. And the truth is, many people confuse noise for love. They think if it's not dramatic, if it's not intense, it's not real. But love that lasts rarely comes in chaos. It comes in quiet gestures, in gentle honesty, in steady effort. It comes in the form of someone who chooses you every day, not just when it's convenient or exciting. When chemistry fades, and it always does, what's left is what really matters. If the connection was only built on attraction, you start to notice the cracks. But if emotional bonding has taken root, that's when the relationship strengthens. You move from "I want you" to "I trust you," from "I'm excited to see you" to "I feel grounded with you." And that's where real intimacy begins. In the quiet kind of love, there's no need to chase or prove. You're not waiting for the next text or overanalyzing every word. You know where you stand, you feel secure. You start to understand that true connection isn't about intensity, it's about presence. It's not about constant stimulation, it's about emotional safety. There's a moment in every healthy relationship when you realize that you don't crave chaos anymore. You crave clarity. You don't want someone who makes your heart race with uncertainty. You want someone who brings peace to your soul. That's emotional bonding. That's what it feels like when love grows up, when it matures from the thrill of attraction to the comfort of understanding. And here's the beauty of it: when chemistry and emotional bonding coexist, it's magic. When the fire of attraction is grounded in emotional depth, that's when love becomes something lasting. The passion doesn't disappear, it deepens. It becomes more intentional, more meaningful, more connected. It's no longer about excitement alone, it's about partnership, trust, and peace. So many people chase the loud kind of love, the kind that makes you dizzy, that fills your world with noise. But the quiet kind, the one that doesn't need to shout to be felt, that's the love that changes you. Because peace is the loudest form of love there is. It's the love that heals your nervous system, the love that makes you feel safe to be yourself, the love that doesn't demand but simply accepts. Emotional bonding is not something that happens in a rush. It's something that's built over time, through patience, presence, and honesty. It's what happens when two people stop trying to impress and start trying to understand, when they stop performing and start being real. It's in the gentle look that says, "I'm here," the small acts of care that say, "You matter," the consistent effort that says, "I'm not going anywhere." Chemistry will get your attention, but emotional bonding will earn your heart. Because in the end, it's not the loudest love that lasts. It's the one that feels like home. It's the love that doesn't exhaust you but restores you. The love that allows you to breathe easier, sleep deeper, live softer. That's what every soul truly craves, not the noise, but the quiet certainty that they are safe, seen, and loved. When the world gets loud, that's the love you'll come back to. The one that doesn't need constant reassurance. The one that feels peaceful even in silence. The one that feels steady even when life isn't. That's what emotional bonding is. The quiet strength that turns chemistry into connection and connection into forever. Attraction is that spark, that subtle pull you can't quite explain. It's the glance that lingers longer than it should, the heartbeat that skips unexpectedly, the smile that makes you feel seen in a way you haven't in a long time. It's magnetic, undeniable, and often immediate. You don't choose it. It just happens. But here's the truth that many people miss: attraction is only the introduction. It's the door that opens. What happens next depends on something far deeper. Something called trust. Because while attraction may catch your attention, it's trust that keeps your heart safe enough to stay. Without trust, attraction burns fast and dies just as quickly. You see, attraction feeds off curiosity, off mystery, off the newness of discovery. But emotional bonding, that soul-level connection, grows from familiarity, safety, and vulnerability. It's not about the spark you feel, it's about the peace you find. When someone's presence feels like home, when their energy brings you calm instead of chaos, that's emotional bonding taking root. You stop asking yourself, do they like me? And start asking, do I feel safe with them? Because safety is the foundation of love that lasts. When a person's words match their actions, when they show up for you not just when it's convenient, but when it matters, that's when attraction deepens into something solid. A lot of people mistake attraction for connection. They believe the butterflies mean it's real, that the intensity means it's deep. But butterflies are just nerves. They flutter at the sight of the unknown. Connection, on the other hand, is what stays when the excitement fades. It's the warmth you feel when they hold space for your silence. It's knowing they see the real you, the unfiltered, unguarded version, and still want to stay close. Trust is built in the quiet moments, in how they listen when you speak, in how they remember the things that matter to you, in how they handle your vulnerability with care instead of judgment. That's when your heart begins to relax. That's when your body starts to trust that it's okay to be open, that you don't have to protect yourself anymore. Attraction may make you want to be close, but emotional bonding allows you to be close. Because attraction without trust is fragile. It feels like walking on glass, thrilling but dangerous. You find yourself always questioning, do they mean what they say? Are they as invested as I am? Do they see me, or just the version of me that fits their fantasy? But when emotional bonding enters the picture, those questions fade away. You stop performing, stop trying to impress, stop overanalyzing. You begin to simply exist freely, comfortably, authentically. And that's the beauty of true connection. You start to realize that the right kind of love doesn't demand your perfection. It honors your truth. There's something powerful about being with someone who doesn't need to be convinced. Someone who doesn't play games or test your patience. Someone who understands that love isn't about control, it's about consistency. That's what builds emotional trust. Not the grand gestures, not the fancy words, but the simple, everyday ways they show up. The text that checks in, the listening ear, the gentle patience when you're not at your best. Trust grows when love feels safe enough to rest. When you can express your emotions without fear of being dismissed. When your tears don't scare them and your silence doesn't push them away. That's emotional bonding. When you know someone's presence won't disappear when things get heavy. It's when you feel, deep down, that you don't have to fight to be understood. Attraction can bring two people together, but without emotional safety, it's like building a house on sand, unstable, uncertain, and temporary. But when you add trust, when you layer honesty, patience, and communication, you build something unshakable. You build a foundation that can weather storms because both people know they can lean on each other without fear of being let down. It's easy to be attracted to someone's beauty, charm, or mystery. It's harder to stay when the masks come off, when real life shows up. That's where emotional bonding either grows or fades. Because when attraction turns into something real, you begin to crave more than attention. You crave understanding. You don't just want someone who looks good beside you. You want someone who feels right inside you. When two people reach that place of emotional trust, everything changes. Conversations deepen. Touch becomes meaningful. Silence turns comfortable. The energy between you softens and the connection begins to breathe on its own. You no longer need constant reassurance because their actions already speak for them. You know where you stand. You feel it in how they look at you, how they respect your space, how they handle your heart. Attraction may bring excitement, but emotional bonding brings peace. And peace, that's what love is really made of. It's not about being perfect together. It's about being safe together. It's about knowing you can fall apart and still be held, that you can speak your truth and still be loved. When you've only known attraction, love feels like a chase, something you have to win or prove. But when you've experienced emotional bonding, love feels like a partnership. You're not chasing each other, you're choosing each other. Every day, in small ways, in honest moments, you find beauty in the simplicity of being understood. And that's what every person truly wants, not just to be desired, but to be trusted. Not just to be seen, but to be known. Because real love doesn't begin when you fall for someone's looks or charm. It begins when you trust them with your heart. It begins when attraction evolves into emotional connection, when what once was exciting becomes grounding, nurturing, and real. So, if you ever find yourself asking, is this attraction or something deeper? Look beyond the thrill. Ask yourself, do I feel safe here? Can I trust this person with my truth? Because attraction will get your heart racing, but trust will keep it steady. Attraction will spark your interest, but emotional bonding will hold your soul. In the end, attraction may be what starts the story, but trust is what writes the chapters. And when you build from trust, the love that grows from it doesn't fade, it matures. It becomes a connection that doesn't need to be forced because it's felt deeply, naturally, and endlessly.